Wake up, buyer payer people. It's a beautiful day. Go grab yourself another cup of joe and say hello to Jim and Michelle Rhoads on the Buy Here Pay Here Morning Show. Take it away, you two.
Hey, everybody.
Good morning from Utah.
Yeah,
Happy
welcome.
Wednesday.
Yeah, it's Wednesday.
Yeah, you picked up on that.
I did.
Good job. So happy to have everybody here. We are thrilled to have a guest with us who's standing by in their vehicle on the way to the car auction. We love bringing dealers.
I love that.
Yeah.
I do. It's like in the trenches, frequently when we've got Jack Carter joining us, he's in the car. And
the first time he joined us, he was inside the building at the car auction.
And it's because it's so real. And because dealers, for the most part, are out there in the trenches. And so, it's pretty cool.
Well, that's part of what we love about the virtual, streaming thing. And we like going live. We're just out here talking about the stuff that everybody's talking about. We're talking about it anyway. We just switch on the microphone. That's kinda what happens.
We talk about it all the time, but it's nice to be able to get other people's perspectives and be having a fresh conversation about every other day. During the week. So, because there's always new stuff.
So, so a couple things have happened. Like we've had some important conversations in recent days. Some of them are like colleagues. Some of them are dealers. I had a really important conversation last night with one of our V8 dealer groups, and that's the newcomers group. So there's a little more coaching in that one. We're kind of taking them through KPIs and numbers and things. And so that was really, important for us to kind of go there. And I can tell you the dealers were appreciative. And I was able to say to them at the start of the conversation, I said, I'm going to share with you guys tonight some of the stuff that I wish somebody had shared with me way back when I was starting. There's just so many things like that are, important to know. And I think, this dealer who's joining us today, we had a conversation not long ago about, and I'll let Chris tell the story, but Chris comes from another industry. So when you step into the buy here, pay here business, is like, well, where's the blueprint? Where do I get this stuff? And so Chris is not the first one to ask. And
absolutely.
This is part of what today's about. And I can just say before we bring Chris in, this is what I think you can say. We're on a White Hat Wednesday. This is part of what I think you can expect to see us continue to do is we kind of understand, we have a perspective on this thing, and we feel like we can help bring some of these pieces together with cooperation, so that's why we're just bringing a really inclusive approach. Anybody who can help us solve this problem for dealers, they're welcome to the conversation.
Absolutely. I mean, I would hope that more than anything that our dealer and vendor listeners know that we are agnostic. Everyone's welcome to the table, all of that. But, it's just, it's an interesting thing as I've sat back and observed, different dealers and it kind of boils down. They may be asking the question a different way, but it boils down to the same questions. And it also is interesting to me that we have been where we talk to another vendor or a dealer or whatever, and they're like, how do you come up with topics? It's like, it's easy. It's really easy. There's always something out there. And even if it's a topic that we're revisiting, it's a different perspective to the topics. So I'm just super grateful that we get to
It's
to
not
do
that
this
we run out of topics. I think the bigger problem is that people just get tired of listening to us, Michelle. That's the thing. So you don't think so? Okay. No. We enjoy talking about here, but we're going to be here anyway. So
exactly. So should we go ahead and bring our guest in,
Mr. Chris Donnelly? For those who don't know Chris, welcome.
We've had the privilege of being able to visit Chris at his dealership before, and in Texas, and great guy, great operator. Wants to learn and be able to do the things that are going to just really create great success for him and his team and his customers.
And
so
I think, Chris, you heard from backstage, and I said, I kind of recounted our conversation when you were kind of like, where are the best practices? And you're not the first person to ask me that, right? I mean, obviously the work that we do in coaching and I, can now refer to myself as something of an analyst. And I can just say that, people ask me that they'll ask, what is the recipe for success, right? And it's interesting in our business, as you've discovered, there's all these different approaches. And so I wanted you to come this morning, and I appreciate you joining us at the last minute on the way to the car auction. Chris is in the parking lot of the car auction today. So we appreciate you making time to do that. But I just want you to share with me kind of, since you come from another industry, talk to me about what you were able to experience in other industries that you're not finding in Buy Here, Pay Here.
Well, the industry I came from was very fragmented going into it. And the simplest things made a big improvement in that situation. And it had some players in it that decided that they were going to take their customers and teach them to be better and to help them to grow and educate them. And the blueprint that you had there, I knew exactly where I needed to be as far as a sales scenario, what the sales mix needed to be, what the gross profit needed to be. I needed to know what the closing ratio needed to be for customers coming to see it. And you were able to actually pinpoint areas of improvement and such. So, if you needed to have, $400,000 in sales at this particular industry, and 50% of the people you were actually going to be able to close, then you actually were interacting with, $800,000 worth of potential business to get 50%. That doesn't exist here for me at this point. And from just the very basics of, hey, what should my markup be? To what should my portfolio look like? And then you get a KPI. I've had some people who've been very nice and have mentored me, but then I didn't know the question to ask to define the KPI.
Right.
Case in point, I said, I had a great conversation with somebody saying, hey, what percentage of my portfolio should be, current and such, and what's the benchmark for past due? And I heard, 20%. I went 20%. Okay. I was not there. But I didn't ask after that, hey, how many of those are repo on hand that you're waiting for the strict foreclosure period to go away?
Right.
And so I didn't get a chance to define it. But then when I did ask the question, people go, I'm really not sure. I'm really not sure. I was like, okay. So I wish I believe that if we have good KPIs and we're all working with good KPIs, then our industry's better, our customers are better, and our business are stronger.
Yeah,
absolutely. By the way, I'll just point out what people are thinking as they're listening to you. You've got a great voice for podcasting.
Yes, you do.
Radio, whatever. So we're glad you brought it.
I have no idea.
Yeah. No, it's all good. I think so. That's good stuff. I think one of the things I can share from my perspective is that we know in this industry. Somebody told me a couple of years ago in a conversation around dealers and why they do what they do is like they use the phrase fiercely independent. It's part of what draws people to Buy Here, Pay Here. Dealers can be fiercely independent. And that just means their practices can be all over the place, right? There's all these different software providers. There's all these different business approaches. And I would say that I've seen, Chris, like just taking your example of the delinquency. What should my currency be or my delinquency be? Well, I've seen dealers running 35% delinquency and just quite successful, very consistent in their portfolio, generating cash very consistently. And so that's another element. I mentioned cash. It's like there's profitability and then there's cash flow, right? And so there's, that's another thing that we have in our industry that not all industries experience, where there's this KPI on profit. But then Michelle and I had a long conversation about this morning around some of the things that are on our roadmap. And it's like, it's important for folks to understand, in our space that, where you price the car is interesting, but how much is it going to yield in terms of cash? What kind of return on cash are you going to see? So this is another thing that makes ours a little more complex. I'm far from giving up, but I do know that, it's challenging in our space because of the kind of the disconnect. And listen, people, we can have 8 dealers in a V8 meeting and 8 of them have different, business models, and they all can work. It's just because everybody can have a little different strategy and game plan and timelines and lots of stuff.
And it seems to me, just from my, from an outsider perspective, and you kind of have that as well, because, this is a newer industry for you, is that it shouldn't be that hard. It just shouldn't. It shouldn't be that hard. And, it seems like everybody that we've talked to wants to improve. They want to be better, whether or not that's like their cash, how much more money is going into the account, or how we're lowering our delinquency, or any of those things. And from my perspective, one of the challenges that we have, and I hear this time and time again when we talk to people that are holders of data, people and dealers themselves, because they hold their own data and all of that. It's about holding your cards too close to your chest. So one of the things that I see is that people aren't willing to help in ways they think they're going to take away from them. And from my perspective, it's like there is more than enough business out there for everybody. And so, if you're turning and if you're burning through customers, there's opportunity for a lot of business that you're just throwing away out the side door or whatever. So it's like there's an opportunity there for everybody. And so it's let's open the floodgates and talk about this stuff. And we don't have to talk about this is Chris Donnelly at this address in this city. But this is a dealer in this region that does this. And that, it just makes me wonder whether or not dealers would be more willing if data providers would be more willing to share freely if that was what they understood was going to be happening.
Yeah, that's a trust element. Go ahead.
And I think that the data providers have to go, we're going to make a commitment to make this industry better as well. That's what happened in my previous industry was the big company said, we've identified the people that are good operators. We want to help them grow because then they'll buy more of our product. I don't see where we have that in our industry right now. There are some opportunities out there with some companies to that if they recognize that and say, we want to pick and choose and identify the dealers who want to grow and do good business, and we're gonna grow with them. But it takes the KPIs to identify that.
Yeah,
I think.
And we know that we're not the first to try to solve this problem, and in reality, it won't be solved in the way that I would like to see it solved in my lifetime. But we're going to keep chipping away. It doesn't mean
that's another conversation.
Yeah. But I'm old. I'm in a couple weeks left. But no, I think the part of the thing is where I'm coming from on this, Chris, is like one of the things we'll do, and you don't have to say who your DMS provider is, but you can be assured that regardless of who that is, I will be happy to ask them with you on your behalf to provide certain things. We had this meeting last night with our newcomer group, and I was able to show them on the screen because, and then what I said to them, same thing, here we are at 10:15 Texas time on the morning of the 1st. I would love for you as a dealer to be able to walk to your DMS and print out a report that gives you this information. Why? Because it helps me in depth analysis. It helps me in portfolio performance. It helps me from my accounting standpoint. It's like this report is just not really available. And I know that, a lot of our dealers are out there running QuickBooks, and like you can't get a cash flow statement out of QuickBooks. It's going to help you one lick with what you're trying to do with running your business. And so there's just missing pieces. And so I think we recognize that. And I think we also recognize that the way that we solve that is to all work together and ask these DMS providers and make the case for them. Many of them are not from our business. That's okay. We need
They're
them
from the
to create
software business,
for us, right? But we need to help them understand what it is that we need as dealers. I like to say we, because I'm a former dealer and I certainly work with dealers every day. And I think I'm on your side. I'm interested in your success. And I think one of the things too, Chris, just quickly, I think you as an entrepreneur, like I say, and I said it last night, like I think buy your payer dealers like fearless entrepreneurs. I love it. And there's a line that we sometimes can be up against where there's a line between being a fearless entrepreneur and being a reckless entrepreneur. Right.
That was also part of the conversation we had this morning.
So, and it's not intentional, but sometimes we're just operating from incomplete information. So go ahead. I could tell you,
go for it.
You know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah. I mean, my DMS is Dealer Center, and I can't say enough good about them. They've always responded to the things that I need. They teach me how to do the reports. Again, the problem is I don't know what I need yet. And I find out what I need when I look at what I thought I needed and go, oh, I still got a question.
Good point.
You know, one of the things I wanted to know as a buy here, pay here person was down payment. Down payment. What should down payment be? Where should it be? And you ask that question, and it's all across the board. And so I'm going, okay, I just don't see this. And there's some people who go, I can't believe they have that much money on the street. Other people are like, it's fine. So I started asking some really experienced people, second, third.
Oh, I think that we've kind of
Do you
lost.
notice that back in the day?
Go ahead. Got you back.
Yeah.
Got you back. No, we got you back.
Oh, so sorry. Back in the day, a person would go to the auction, and I'd hear them telling me stories of, well, I go to the auction, I buy a car for $2,500, $3,000, and then I get $1,500 down, or $2,000, I get $1,500 down. I go, okay, in today's time, that means if I buy a car at the auction, I pay $8,000. I'm going to need to get $5,000 or $6,000 down. That's
for those same margins, right?
To keep that same margin going. So I see where it was back then. How does that transition to now? And of course, inflation, comes into play. But what is a best practice for money on the street?
Right.
And
it does vary.
I'm still experimenting with that.
Yeah. And I think this is one of the other things that I see from my perspective, having been, I've had a number of different softwares. We currently work inside a number of different softwares where we're, pulling reports and assisting dealers. And so we see the software. And I think there's several elements to this. In our business, as you know, you buy these cars and you price them. Now you contract them under a certain deal structure. And now we have to be able to measure the long-term performance. So to come back and answer your question, there's not enough data currently, and 20 groups are as close as you're going to get to having something that, takes all those pieces from the front and carries it all the way to the back over time. You stay in your group long enough, you'd have enough analysis there. Not everybody can justify, the price of a 20 group. And so we're trying to create solutions, obviously, that are going to help dealers get to some of this information. And I think but it is kind of connecting all of those dots so that you can have the answers that you're looking, because I don't even have them, Chris. I'm 20 plus years and I'm working with dealers all over the place, and we got pools of data from here and there, but I can't answer that question. I can tell you what's average. I can tell you what's typical. I can tell you what most dealers do. Doesn't mean it's right for you. And it doesn't mean, because everybody's cash risk is going to be different. Their capital investment, all these things are going to vary. But I feel like what I would wish for a dealer is I could answer your question and say, this is the optimum loan structure. This kind of pricing, this kind of markup, this down payment, this performs best. I don't know that anybody in the industry can really say that. Because when I look at it, one of the things
they can't currently because they just can't, or they can't currently because we're not stringing the right pieces together.
That's the latter. It's the latter. They don't have. Go ahead.
I'm so sorry. I was blessed to have a conversation with Lindsay from Sterling, and she was very forthcoming with me about what structures they look for in a note, so that I could work backwards into a deal. Now that doesn't mean I'm going to sell notes, because that's kind of nobody wants to sell notes. It seems like. But if I'm going to create a note, I want to create a note that a note buyer wants. That doesn't necessarily mean I want to sell it. And she was really good about turning me on to loan to value, utilizing black book average wholesale. Meanwhile, I'm going to the auction buying cars based on JD Power clean trade. And there's differences between the two, and they vary by make and model. There are people out there that can provide that information, give us pieces of that information, Jim. And I truly believe that you guys, with the 20 groups you have, are going to get us to those answers. But it's not going to be hey, I got the answers right here. Let me just pull them out. We're going to come up with it because of people talking, like in your 20 groups. It says, I want to know about this. What are we doing on this? And answering the tough questions in a very safe environment where everybody trusts one another. And I've been involved with your group for I'd say about 4 months now, and I love it. It's fantastic. And the crazy thing is, after the meeting, there's always somebody goes, hey, can we have a call? And then we continue the talk. And so we go, hey, well, I'll talk to you again. And that's what's I truly believe we can get there.
Dealers teaching other dealers. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think one of the other things,
being involved our local industry associations, and such, going to those things and attending the state things and having these conversations. I'm sorry, I'll just keep talking.
Well, I appreciate what you're talking about. The V8 platform has really helped dealers to connect with dealers that they don't know, and dealers that might have a different perspective, or it's like, oh, you have a business model pretty similar to mine. What is it that you're doing that's different? It's connecting.
Yeah. And then one of the other challenges we have, as you see, you sit in a virtual group of 8, you might have 3 or 4 different softwares there. You might have dealers who have a different practice for how they charge off their accounts. There can be different practices within those groups, and that's okay. We'll work through that. That's part of what we're doing, and we're obviously just getting started with that. I can say too, though, one of the things you'll see me focus on, Chris, I'm most interested in analyzing the portfolios that are self-serviced by dealers. You talk about selling paper, whatever. I think it's a different, well, I know it is. I know that it's a different environment when you and I own paper and we sell it to a finance company. That performance with the finance company is going to be different than it would be with you and me. And that's okay, as long as we understand that and we can have different measurements over there. Because, I talked to somebody recently, and we expect to be able to bring them to the podcast soon. But it's like, this is somebody who's made their living in the bulk buying business, and they talked about their repo recovery is so low in the finance company side where they buy that paper in bulk. Well, it's different for you as a dealer. When you repossess a car, you've got an outlet for it. You've got a way to remarket and do something different with that car. So your recovery will be different from a finance company. So I think it's not the same metrics. It's not going to be exactly the same, side by side. So I think what we're really focused on is apples to apples, trying to get practices where they line up, right, and have some sort of way to convert and make them valid comparisons. And then the other piece for me is I'm trying to stay inside self-servicing. You really want to, it can be your finance company, in the building next door or, around the back, but your own, kind of sister finance company, that's fine. But we just really want to measure performance, and I can show on the slide. I got something. I don't know if you'll be able to see the screen very well, Chris, from where you are in the car, but I just produced this with a client yesterday after meeting with their CPA, because CPA was kind of pressing for some deal analysis as it was related to
You're doing the glasses thing just like I am.
Yeah,
it's like,
I am what I am.
No, it's like, and so we don't have to get into the particulars of this particular graph and what this shows, but what I did is I took this dealer's total of payments. Like so you might think of that as the term of the loan with finance charges, right? That's the entire loan term. And then within that, we started kind of analyzing, okay, that first red bucket that you see there, that's cash and deal. So you can see the kind of what that represents. In this dealer's case, it doesn't show the top line, but it's like $25,000, almost $26,000 for total of payments for an average deal structure. And the dealer's risk in that contract at the time of delivery is $8,800. Now their cost of money to fund, and this particular dealer is the math is done at a 55% draw. So I said, okay, if this dealer were to draw 55% on this contract and to pay 18.5% interest, which is where they are on their line of credit, and they were to curtail from their payments down to make sure they stay at a 55% ratio, then we calculate, okay, this would be the interest expense associated with that one contract across the term of the loan. That yellow bar is the average net charge off for that dealer. So what we don't have currently broken out, that green up there is combination of its average potential cash. It's like it's what we would collect in cash. So I don't really for
beyond what it was the initial investment.
Correct.
Okay.
And beyond, so that green bar is not only beyond the initial investment of cash, it's now beyond their cost of money on their line of credit, it's beyond their charges. So that green section is giving us, this is the potential profit. And it doesn't, for this bar or this graph you're looking at, Chris, it doesn't differentiate between profit on the sale and finance income. Like we just are looking at, it's just cash. Like, the red bar is the dealer's cash risk, And then obviously we don't have overhead represented there either. So look for us to move forward with that.
Yeah,
in a
yeah.
V8 group, we're not tracking overhead. We're not looking at that. We're trying to keep it super simple and turn it around quickly. But I think these are examples of, where we're trying to go. And I think it's helpful for the CPA. We had a really nice conversation with the CPA and we were able to figure out how he thinks about it. So he's an advisor to the dealer from another perspective. And I tell you, that conversation too, Chris, is like, doggone it. And I remember having QuickBooks, and QuickBooks is just, it's workable for most of us. It's just like, man, it's just so frustrating that we can't go over there and run a report. Like I want dealers to be able to look at a report that says we brought in this much cash. And I mean, this to me is something we should be able to have 5 minutes after we close the month.
Now, but my question is does it require some standardizing of how we are charting things in our DMS, how we're moving things through, and how we're, it's like one of the conversations that we had, just you and I, was about where do you put expenses? Where do you do, these kind of things. So would it be helpful to be able to get to that place where you can just like, this is the thing. If there was more standardizing of some kind of how the dealer is inputting the information?
Yes and no. The part that I'm talking about currently, Chris, is just cash. Like to look at cash, it's not about markup. It's not, so what I have, that report I was able to work with the CPA with yesterday, line 1, down payments collected. Line 2, principal and interest collected this month. And you could have another line for cash sales and other money that came in, but I'm really just looking at, what is our buy here, pay here business generating in cash? So in the month of April, for example, we generated this much cash. That's easy. I can have that report in minutes. Chris can have it too. How much cash was brought in. Now, the challenging part would be, because again, this is what we were working with the CPA to figure out is, but how much cash did I write out of my checkbook this month? Buying cars, overhead. So, you get into this whole accrual accounting versus cash accounting, and that's okay. I mean, I understand dealers are going to do accrual a lot of times, but it makes it difficult I just want to know cash. I want to know operationally, like for this dealer's case, I was able to say to the CPA, and I would be able to say to you and any other dealer, if I'm a dealer, I want to know, when can I quit drawing on this line of credit? You know what I mean? When do I forecast enough cash to be able to stop drawing on this line of credit and paying this price for this external money? And so that was kind of, if the dealer's not using external money, they want to know, hey, when can I start having some positive cash so I can start taking a little time off or whatever? It's just cash. And so to me, this is why it's challenging in QuickBooks. And, God love QuickBooks. They help us with lots of our business, but it doesn't help us get to cash. And so this is the part that I'm saying, we can work on this, Chris. This is part of where Michelle and I talked about it some length this morning. It's like in our business, we have that added layer. There's profitability, but there's obviously in our business, there's this phantom profit. That screen I just showed you, that dealer's $8,800 negative after down payment. Like, that's not.
It looks really great.
It looks nice. We got plenty of profit on paper, but from a cash standpoint, we're negative. And so this is the part that I'm a cash flow guy. So I'm always working, trying to figure out ways to get to cash flow stuff. And the profitability is there. When I'm working with new people, I often say, in our business, and you know what I mean, you can almost take profitability for granted in our business. You've got plenty of markup. You've got a high APR. You've got quite a bit of profit. The question is, can we manage our way to success and manage our cash, to really make it successful? So, this is all the stuff. And so, we're just trying to figure out. And so for you, I thought it was really interesting to hear from you about what is it you're missing? Like, what do you feel like you need to be able to make better management decisions day to day?
You already talked about down payment.
It comes back to what do the successful people do, and how did they do it? And identifying that. And the successful people, just because somebody is successful, it may be a different model than I have. And I need to be knowledgeable enough to go, that works for them. I don't want to be that. There may be an entity that has a very loose underwriting, and their plan is to be very good at repossession and reconditioning and reselling, and such. So they make that work very, very well. Repossession is something it's really kind of the icky part of this business, and we really don't want to do that much of it. So our underwriting might be more stringent, but we build that into our model so that we go, we're going to be more stringent, in this situation. So we are going to miss deals, but the deals we get are going to be structured this way. That's what I look at. I have to do a shameless plug. That's why I'm involved with the Houston Independent Auto Dealers Association. You guys have been down to that.
Well, plug away for the associations.
You know, we meet every month and we have these conversations. And in October, we have something called our survey meeting, where our members that choose to do it confidentially fill out a survey that provides us information. And then we just have an open discussion about what these graphs say. Very much like a 20 group, but not. It's just people in the room talking about, hey, the average is this, and you don't see who it is. All of the numbers are aggregated, and we have a discussion about, is this best practice? Is this not? And I have a goal that at some point on our HIDA website, we will have a best practices tab where you're going to be able to see numbers. Maybe not right. Maybe, it's not a here, do it like this, but at least it'll be a start for you to go, hey, this is where it is. This is what goes into that number. And Michelle, a standardized chart of accounts will be something that's needed in our industry as well, to have those the common size and the common discussions about where does that go. Charge-offs is a great one. Everybody goes, oh, my charge-offs is 2%. Well, does that include total losses?
Yeah.
And there's so many questions that have to be asked so that we can define it, so that we can use those benchmarks to improve our industry.
Sure.
Feel like I'm a broken record, but yes, I love these conversations. And what's crazy is, April and I have these same conversations like you guys do at night, going, well, what about this? Well, what about this? And we ask these things about, well, what is that benchmark? What should it be? I don't know.
Some of our listeners don't know. I am
confident we can get there.
Yeah.
So some of our listeners don't know April. Who is April?
He dropped. There you are. Okay, who's April? Did we lose you?
I can't hear you.
I
don't know. I'm there. You're back.
Okay. So Jim's like, we know who April is. You want to tell people who April is?
April's the love of my life. She's my fiance, but she's also involved in a very large entity here in Houston and such. And she's also very involved with the industry association. She's actually be speaking at NIADA in Las Vegas in June. It's great to be in love with somebody who's passionate about the business that they're in as well. So
and
we have very boring conversations. What's that?
And it has a different perspective because you're not working for the same company. And so it's like, we're both in the same industry. And so what is it that we're doing here? What is it we're doing here? And I think that's fantastic that you're getting that kind of insight into like what's working, what's not working, and how can I maybe improve my business based on what it is that you're experiencing with your business.
Yeah. Yes. And you can rest assured as you move forward, and with April, we're happy to support the Houston Association.
Absolutely.
And we, through the morning show, we can continue to slide in subliminal messages where we can. There's a story there I'll explain later. But we will slide in messages on behalf of your association. And we know that's an important place. You guys have a wonderful group down there. A lot of buy-here dealers in your group. I see the photos and kind of know who's part of that and recognize a lot of the names and faces. And so, you've got a really strong group there. And I would definitely encourage dealers in South Texas to get over there and get part of that.
And everyone listening, and you too, Chris, we have no problem with plugging an association.
Yeah.
None.
Yeah.
Because if, for all of our listeners out there, because it's been a while since I've gotten on this soapbox. Your association, regardless of whether or not you're a member, is always out for your best interest. Always. And because they're trying to help improve the industry, and like the rules that you have to live by are from Capitol Hill. Well, your industry or your association is who the voice for the industry is. And so if, join your state association. Join your state association, because it's not that expensive, but it really helps you, even if you never go to a single meeting. It helps you in your business because they're out there asking the tough questions and fighting the fight.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So
going back to the previous industry scenario, we had a very strong association that allowed us to grow our industry and become more successful.
Mhm.
The better my industry association is, local and state, Tiato is fantastic.
Mhm.
The better they are, the better my business is. It's
Yeah.
not, it is a hand-in-hand scenario. A great
Mhm.
association does not hurt a business. It only helps a business.
Yeah.
So the more people we can have involved having this discussion, the better it will be.
And it's not something like they're only helping if you show up to the conference. It's they're
Right.
helping by changing how you can do your licensing. They're helping by changing what it is that someone can go after you for, or what you can go after someone for, or, you know, all of the things that it's like, there's a tool now that you have, there's someone in your court, and you don't have to go to a conference to experience that. It's just default.
I can
Yeah,
wrap it up
I love
with
it.
one other intangible KPI, I'll call it. So, you know, one thing about being a member of associations just occurred to me hearing you guys talk is if
Mhm.
I'm a member of the Texas Association, Houston Association, I get to sleep a little bit better at night because I know that I'm part of the conversations.
Yeah.
I know that my business is going to be more compliant because I'm in the know.
Mhm.
I know that I'm in that group that can sleep a little better at night. So just one more
Mhm.
thing to think about, a reason
Yeah.
to be part of those associations.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
anyway,
I love too that it's, you know, that sleeping better at night is because you don't have to be a lone island.
yeah,
You don't have
Right.
to get it all figured out on your own. It's because there's a lot of people out there that connecting with other dealers, like you were talking about from the V8 group. It's like, hey, can we get on the phone and talk about the thing after the meeting?
Yeah.
You know, it's about you don't meet those people until you engage too. I mean,
Yeah.
join, but then engage.
Yeah.
And you know, you'll be better.
So hopefully
So-
by the time you return,
Preach.
Chris, go. Yeah,
Preach.
Yeah. So hopefully by the time
Preach, man, that's it.
yeah, by the time you come back, we'll be able to say dealers who are members of associations sleep 1.23 hours more than non-members.
Soundly.
Yeah. So anyway, we
Thank
appreciate you
you
making
so
time to come.
much. We appreciate you joining us from your car. And Jim told me last night, he's like, oh, Chris is joining us. That's fantastic.
Surprise.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
we appreciate your willingness, with not like a week's notice, so
Yeah.
that you're willing to come on and have a conversation with us, and your insight is valuable.
Yeah.
So thank you.
I don't know about that, but any opportunity to move our industry forward and improve our industry with a conversation like this, just improves my business as well, and my fiance's business. So, and my friends. So, I'm happy to do it anytime. And thank you all for doing this, because
Yeah.
it means, I don't know that you get the feedback of how much this does mean and how much you are tying our industry together and moving
Okay.
it forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent.
y'all.
Thank you so
Anything-
much. Appreciate it.
Anything
All right.
I can do to support that, I will.
Thank
Right.
you.
Outstanding.
Thank you. Stick around for just a second if you can. We're going to close
Sure.
up and then we'll say a proper goodbye. Okay. Thanks so much.
Okay,
Chris.
kiddo. Thanks.
Appreciate it. Great conversation.
Something else you witnessed
yeah.
there that I want to make sure we get said is that, one thing about somebody like Chris is you hear him say freely, I don't know what I don't know. Right. And that's a hard thing for some people to just even have come out of their mouth. Like it just,
Mhm.
they sometimes want to act like they got it all figured out. And I think the most successful dealers in my experience are the ones who can say, I don't know
what
it
I
all.
don't know.
So you got to just
Or
kind of be able
that
to-
I'm open to improvement or
Yeah.
hearing other people's ideas, because it may be like, oh, I never thought of that. But
Yeah.
so hey, everybody, thanks for joining us. Thanks for making us a part of your Wednesday. If you need any help and assistance with anything, the things that we've talked about, whatever, joining a V8 group, some coaching, some education, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. You can find us on all of the social media our social media platforms. YouTube, go to YouTube and like and subscribe too while you're at it.
Yeah, and if you'd like for me to help ask the questions of your DMS providers for better reports, just message me. Let's have a
Exactly.
conversation.
All right. Have a great rest of your week, everybody. Thank
All
you
right,
again so much again.
See you.